I'm Meg Grigal from Think College at the Institute for Community Inclusion at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. I'm here today to share a little information about my poster entitled Avoiding Employment Soup, Using What Works Instead of What Is Available. Um, First, before we get into the content, give you a little bit of background. This work is based on a project at Think College called the National Coordinating Center. This project works with the transition post-secondary programs for students with intellectual disability. We've been funded as the National Coordinating Center for this group of model demonstration projects from the Office of Post-Secondary Education since 2010. We've worked with two previous cohorts of TIPSID grantees whose job is to enhance inclusive higher education for students with intellectual disability. We've recently been refunded to serve as the coordinating center for the third cohort of TIPSID grantees. And as part of our charge for that work, we have collected data on college students with intellectual disabilities employment services. So for the past 10 years, we've collected data on career development experiences and paid work, both while the students are in their program and after they've exited their college program. And this session is reflecting on what we've learned recently about what we can know and what we can't know from some of our previous data approaches. And I thought it was worth sharing with transition professionals and other people involved in college-based transition and inclusive higher education, because sometimes we all approach employment services with what's available, and thinking about it with the analogy of making soup. What are you trying to achieve in the end in terms of a student becoming employed? It was really dependent on the ingredients you put in. And I think sometimes for employment services in transition, in college-based transition, and in inclusive higher ed, the ingredients we have available determine what students receive in terms of services, as opposed to what we know works. So this session's goal is to offer some reflection of how the National Coordinating Center is thinking about what we know works for supporting positive employment outcomes for students with intellectual disability in higher education. So if you look at our poster, you'll see models of career development and work-based learning. So as we were approaching, trying to figure out how to best identify what was and was not working to support positive employment outcomes, we realized that much of the language we were using to refer to different services sometimes became vague. Saying career development or work-based learning across 52 programs or 100 programs in the country, everybody approaches it a slightly different way. So we decided to take a hard look at the definitions we were using in our data system. And to support that reflection, we went and looked at existing models of career development and work-based learning to see how they defined those services and categorized them in the different stages of career development. So if you review the samples that are in our poster, you will see we have career awareness, career exploration, career preparation, career training, and career experience. And some of those actually have different titles depending on the entity that has created their model. There are 4 examples: the UMT Rural Institute, the JFF Center for Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning, the Iowa Work-Based Learning Guide, and the National Transition Technical Assistance Center guidance. These are just examples. We actually looked at many, many more. There's not room for those on this poster. So from this reflection, we did some uh, meetings to define, all right, how are we going to construct our elements of employment service? And we came up with 4 categories of service: career awareness and exploration, work-based learning, job seeking, and paid employment. Notably, job seeking activities were relatively absent from most of the other models that we looked at. Paid employment was also not consistently presented as an employment service in these models. And lastly, inclusive higher education, or higher education as a context for paid employment or career development, was almost never represented in these models. So our goal for this work going forward is to create um, a data-based model of employment services for inclusive higher education. So you can review our career awareness definitions and the other definitions by looking at the poster content. And if you want some more information about how we are gathering these data and reflecting it in our reports, our last National Coordinating Center annual report on the transition post-secondary programs for students with intellectual disabilities is available on our website, www.thinkcollege.net, and you'll see the data we are collecting related to that. To bring this up to a more generalizable approach, the questions we asked ourselves and the questions we believe you may want to ask yourself and your team are in our strategies to enhance employment services on the poster. So thinking about the employment services you offer and your reason for choosing them, the thought process that goes into how long these services are offered to students, in what order these services are offered to students, and the data you have to support why you've made those decisions are really the conversations we suggest that we've had, and we suggest other teams who are looking to um, move toward continuous improvement on employment services. Assessing your resources, not just taking what's in the cupboard, but taking what works. So looking at how you know your career awareness activities work. What are your measures of success? Looking at the language you use to refer to the services you offer and ensuring that it is consistent across students and across systems. Having discussions about the order of operations, the dosage, the anticipated duration of services, and knowing why you're making those choices, not because that's what we've always done, not because that's just what's available, but really being intentional about it. And the only way to really know what works is to collect data and review it and be ready to make changes based on those data to your staffing, to the training you offer the people who are achieving these goals for you, looking at how the service structures operate and collaborate or sometimes impede the outcomes we're trying to achieve. So in closing, I hope that this short presentation gives you some things to think about with your team related to improving employment services for students with intellectual disability in transition, college-based transition, or inclusive higher education. Thank you for listening, and I hope if you want to learn more, please come to Think College at www.thinkcollege.net. Thanks.